Good afternoon, everyone. James Hicks here from Hicks New Media. Welcome to another edition of Perspectives in Focus, where we talk to the people, the industries, and the ideas that are making positive strides within our society today. Today, we have some key executive members from leadership from BioRestorative Therapies. I've got Lance Alstodt, the chairman and CEO. He joined the company back in 2020 with a background really stemming from an extensive experience in operations, strategy, raising capital, and in mergers and acquisitions. Mr. Alstodt is also the founder of Medvest Capital Corporation, which is an advisory and capital firm that's focused exclusively within the healthcare sector. We also are fortunate to have Mr. Francisco Silva, who is the Vice President of Research and Development, and he's been with the organization since April of 2011. Mr. Silva is responsible for all laboratory operations and is involved in the development and the growth of the company's stem cell programs. BioRestorative Therapies, the company which will be the focus of today's discussion, is committed to developing and delivering therapies that address the unmet needs and increase the quality of care for patients with highly prevalent conditions. It's going to be a fantastic conversation. If you have any questions for these gentlemen, please put a Q in front of it and we will try to get to those as quickly as possible. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let me bring on these two fantastic gentlemen. Mr. Alstodt, Mr. Silva, good to see you
James,
guys.
thanks. Nice to see you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, thank you. I know it's cold over there in New York right now, so I'm here in California, guy. I'm over here probably. I don't tell you, I'm wearing shorts and a t-shirt. No,
It's the holiday season. A lot of love and a lot of warmth, no
it
matter
is.
where you are.
It is. You know, I want to be cognizant of your time, and I want to make sure that we save enough time for your dialogue, your conversation, and for anyone who chimes in on the various channels that we're multi-streaming on. So let me go ahead and start with this. I gave the high level of both of you in terms of your roles with the organization, and also gave kind of a high level of what the organization in itself does. But Lance, can you go into who you are a little more deeply and then talk specifically about biorestorative therapies?
Sure. I'm a I'm a husband. I'm a father. I'm a brother. I'm a dad. I've got a great family, and as it pertains to biorestorative, I think all that's very relevant because we think of our organization as a bit of a family. We've been through a lot over a long period of time, or what seems like a long time, even though it was only about 14 months at this point. But my background is in investment banking. I was a career investment banker for 23 years. I started a healthcare fund, as you mentioned, MedCap. And what we do there is we find really interesting emerging technologies across many different sectors within healthcare, from services to medical technology and biopharma, et cetera. And we come in and we try to make an investment where we can really add value in terms of operational, strategic, managerial, what have you. And that's kind of how I came about biorestorative. I had a very long career working as an advisor to some of the top spine companies in the world. Some companies like Medtronic and Zimmer and Stryker and Nuvasive and Globus and others. And those are companies that make spine devices. Instrumentation goes into your body for a whole host of reasons.
Mm.
And I came upon this technology that was extremely desirable, but very early on in the process. And it was a sector that I personally felt would evolve over time as the need to regenerate one's own body through the best sources of one's own body,
Mm.
and getting away from some of the instrumentation and some of the devices and some of the procedures that just quite frankly were unacceptably not working as well as they should have based on clinical trials. So I found this technology with my partner Francisco Silva, and I thought that the company had tremendous potential, but was held in a shell that was very disorganized and dysfunctional in terms of its capital structure, its organization, where it traded, how it traded, the composition of its shareholders. And the goal was, let's really unlock the value that's associated with this technology.
Mm.
Let's get it out of its current environment, which was somewhat toxic, meaning it had this really collapsible capital structure with what's called convertible toxic notes that create some sort of a death spiral approach. So the goal was, let's clean this up. Let's put it onto an exchange where it's more nationally recognized, and let's get it out of bankruptcy. Because when I found the technology, it was within bankruptcy. It was unclear whether it was going to go into a Chapter 11 bankruptcy or a
Wow.
Chapter 7 bankruptcy, which would be a liquidation.
Right.
So we got organized. Francisco and I, we got organized. We found some very helpful and friendly investors to work with us. We raised some capital. We reorganized the entire company. We went through the judicial process, and we were able to pick the Chapter 11 process and get it approved and become effective on November 16th, 2020. So just over a year ago, we were a company that was in bankruptcy, emerged from bankruptcy with a pretty decent size amount of cash on our balance sheet, with a vision and a purpose to really develop our technologies through the regulatory pathway, which is the FDA, and go through a clinical trial in order to validate what we believe is paradigm shifting technology.
Fantastic. I appreciate that dialogue. And Francisco, I'm gonna let you chime in as well. But I don't want that to be overlooked, overstepped, and taken for granted. The fact that you went from such a, I'm gonna say, dire point, or from one particular position within the organization, and in a relatively short period of time, became, I'm gonna say, cash flow positive, no longer facing bankruptcy, right? And now actually also listed on the stock exchange. Talk to us a little bit about that activity, those efforts, right? Again, because that takes a lot of coordination, and you're coming in relatively new to the team, Lance, right? Again, how do you move and motivate, and how do you convince folks that may have been at the organization for a longer period of time that the direction you want to go is the right direction, right?
I think that was the easiest part of the job. I mean,
Okay.
guys like Francisco and other people within the organization very much believed in the science, and this is who we are. We are molecular biologists with really great technology that just needed to be funded and put in the right capital structure in order for us to move forward and do what we do best, which is executing and bringing clinical products to market. So I think what the previous management team was challenged to do was exactly that. They were kind of stuck in this capital structure with these really toxic convertible notes in an over-the-counter environment. And they needed just a little bit of expertise and leadership to come in and say, our goal and our mission, in order for us to be successful and validate this technology through the FDA process, is to raise the requisite funds to do that. And in order to raise those funds, well, we had to really tear down the walls from the ground up. And I mean, to use the expression, we had to really blow up the building and start from the dirt and build it up one step in front of the other, and make sure that we're in a position to do it right, to do it clean, to do it above board, and to do it in a transparent way for our shareholders and for everyone else around our company, i.e. our vendors, our professional service people, everyone that's in our ecosystem as it relates to BioRestorative need to understand what our mission was, and we weren't going to stop until we got there. So when we came into this company post bankruptcy and we emerged, we weren't current with our SEC filings.
Okay.
We had to become current with two 10-Ks. about 6 10Qs. So we became current all within 6 months. The level of brain cells that we had to commit to do that, and and the amount of hard, long conversations we had to do with our professional service advisors were tremendous. But we did it. It takes most companies, a couple of years in order to get something like that accomplished. So we're very proud of the work that we did, the execution that we did. But it's a much bigger story than just the basic blocking and tackling. It's
Gotcha.
all about the fact that we've now raised the requisite funds in order to complete our phase 2 clinical trial, in order to prove that our spine technology, which is one of 2 programs that we're focused on, is in fact superior relative to other competitive technologies, and quite frankly, safe and efficacious relative to the issue that's out there that's crippling a lot of people that are unable and incapable of really living the lifestyle that they desire to live.
Awesome. Francisco, how are you going to follow that up, man? Right. So now I'm going to ask you to describe to everyone you and your role within the organization. It's going to be tough to follow Lance there on what he said. But if you don't mind, sir, if you could tell the folks your role within BioRestorative, and again, the things that you focus on a day-to-day basis.
Great. Again, thanks a lot, James. So I've been with the company since 2011, so I've been here the longest. I'm a developmental biologist by training. And one of the things that, having been here the longest and seeing the process of developing the programs and growing them and taking them from a very basic point of view of lab experiments and then ultimately translating them, getting all the documentation and the regulatory approvals to file the IND was really a tremendous work in itself. Prior to the bankruptcy, keep in mind that we have a phase 2 approved trial for BRTX 100 without ever having to undergo a phase 1 clinical trial. And that's just, again, strategy that we were able to, muster internally with developing the program by using the prior human experience that we were able to use with the program to take it to the FDA, which demonstrated safety and at least a signal of efficacy in terms of the product working. So that was really exciting, for me as a scientist to see that something that we're creating in the lab could actually be used in humans and to treat. And I think that's one of the things that has really attracted me so much into the field. Is really understanding that the things that we do in the lab, it's very powerful. Ultimately, that those are the things that get translated and become tools for the physicians who use them to treat people. And currently, right now, we see that with the pandemic. So the doctors didn't save, society from the pandemic. It was the scientists who actually saved.
I like that.
Society.
Yeah.
Because they are the ones who developed the technology and took it to the next step. So it's really refreshing to see that our jobs and our roles have a huge impact, not just for the companies we work for, but for society as a whole. And so that's really exciting. And and I've had many opportunities to leave my position and seek other opportunities. And I have never done that. It's something that I truly believe in this project, and I'm very confident that once we initiate the trial, that we were going to be able to see some very good positive clinical outcomes that'll drive the company forward to develop additional programs.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate your statement about following and maintaining the science aspect, right? Because a lot of times we'll get caught up in noise, or we'll get caught up in other types of rhetoric. But when we're dealing with something specifically like a pandemic or like stem cell research and the items that you're focusing on, it's really those folks that are behind the scenes with the white jackets on, from a science perspective, that are really going to help us get above, over, and through some of these hurdles that we're facing right now. So again, I wanted to just restate on that piece right there. Lance, a question came in just now from the community, and it was in relation to your ability. We talked about it again, your ability to move the company quickly from a bankruptcy perspective to where you are today. And I wanted to actually bring this up. This is an interesting statement here. So with your experiences, do you see a number of companies in biospace within OTC struggling with uplisting from toxic debt and mismanagement rather than a lack of ability to provide proof of concept? So, because again, it seems like what you've done, what you've been able to do in such a short period of time is abnormal. But it's abnormal, but in a good way, right? Again, it doesn't seem like as many other organizations who may be going through what other turbulence that they're going through is becoming as fortunate and as successful as you are. If you didn't want to elaborate on that.
In the spirit of just piling on to the theory that we were led by the science, I will funnel that through to that question as well, because I think whether you're over the counter or you're NASDAQ or wherever you're listed, whether it's a national exchange or a smaller exchange, if you have a good product or if you have good science and you have good technology and you have good people around the company, the sky is the limit. There really aren't any limitations. It's just a matter of having the skill set, the expertise, and the leadership to understand where you want to go and what direction. There are a lot of benefits from a disclosure perspective being over the counter. But I think if you want to really maximize your capital markets experience and get in touch with as many investors as possible and share with the community the excitement and passion that you have with respect to your company. I mean, that's why we chose what we did. We could have stayed over the counter. We could have kept that capital structure. I don't think it would have done well for anyone, and I don't think we would have been able to raise the requisite funds in order to accelerate our programs or even get into our trial. And I think that our technology is so important for humanity because it has so many different applications. I mean, spine is just the tip of the iceberg. We're talking about the entire orthopedic system, whether it's shoulders, hips, knees, any avascular zone within your body in the future. We will be able to bring this technology into that area and have those capabilities. So this is too important just to keep it, very selfishly on one small exchange. So I think if you have the underlying fundamental product or service or technology, you have really an unlimited access to whatever exchange or whatever capital you want. It's just about having the right level of expertise to get there.
I love it. There's commentary going on behind the scenes. Again, I'm not sure if you see it. I haven't brought them on the screen yet, but the community is dying to have these conversations because again, what you've done, right, and had those hard conversations and made those hard decisions and been successful up to this point. So kudos to you on that. Let's go ahead and get into kind of the prime initiatives, the prime programs that you have over at BioRestorative. And I know one is focused on, like you say, the disc and the spine therapies, and you've got another one that's being focused on cell-based metabolic therapy. So if you can go into the BRTX 100 and then ThermoStem as well, that'd be fantastic.
Sure. Francisco, do you want to talk a little bit about, at a high level, what we're doing?
Yeah. So BRTX 100 is our lead clinical candidate. It's approved by the FDA currently right now for a phase 2 trial. It's a randomized double-blind placebo-controlled trial as well, so it involves 99 patients. We're targeting starting the trial in Q2 of the coming year. Currently, right now, the main advantage really that it has that I'm really excited about is the fact that it's mesenchymal stem cells, and there's no question about whether stem cells have therapeutic value. They do. They've been around for a while, and we've seen a lot of successes, and as well as a lot of failures that have helped us really and guide us forward in how to better design the trial or better design the manufacturing of the product, ultimately to get into humans. One of the key things that we have with the product is that it's cultured and engineered under a low oxygen environment, which basically allows the cell to survive the disc, which is extremely, extremely toxic. It has very little blood flow. So even if you have the best cell product in the world, if you inject it into the disc and it basically goes into shock, the cell will not survive and ultimately not be able to provide a therapeutic output for the patient post-transplantation. So it really makes no sense to inject the cell that's not going to survive. And that's what we've done. We've basically engineered a cell that is hypoxic resistant. So it's resistant to the low oxygen tension within the disc, and has a lot of ability to cause an anti-inflammatory effect, which is one of the key factors in the disc that when it's degenerated, that causes this chronic inflammatory response in the body. So that being our lead clinical product, we're really excited in having the trial start in Q2 of 2022. Our other program, it's basically it's.
I'm sorry, just to be clear, the product itself is for patients that have chronic lower back pain, and for the purpose of our trial, we're looking at patients that have a single level issue
Correct.
with respect to their lower lumbar part of their spine, so your lower back.
Okay.
And it could be a bulging disc. It could be something. It doesn't necessarily have to show up on the imaging. It just has to be some painful environment that is causing the patient to be unable to go to work in the morning, pick up their grandchildren, play in their men's league hockey game or their basketball game.
Yeah.
Just the day-to-day lifestyle that we all should expect coming out of, and this doesn't pertain to just people that are above 65 years old. These are people that are in their 20s and 30s and 40s. We've had professional athletes who have inquired about this product and want to be participants in our clinical trial. And the trial that we're undergoing is a randomized, prospective, double-blinded, controlled trial, which is the very, very most elite, most highly acceptable trials within the scientific community.
Yeah, this is the gold standard in terms of clinical trial design. And just to emphasize a little bit on the point on what Lance mentioned on the single disc disorder,
Yeah.
that's extremely important and shouldn't be overlooked. Most people that have degenerative disc, they have more than one. And even though you might be able to treat one of the discs, the other disc will generate pain, and that can cause a lot of noise when you look at the data. So the data is going to be a little bit all over the place, and you could design trials to be able to address that issue. But in order to make the data as clean as possible, we decided to only look for patients and include them in a trial that have a single disc disorder. So that does impact the recruitment rate, how fast the recruitment is done, but we've already addressed those issues as well. So we believe that this trial is really going to be very clean in terms of the data readout and showing that the improvements are actually related to the actual product itself being injected into the disc.
Let me ask about this, and you're bringing up questions, and I see folks in the community asking as well. The origination, I guess, of this ailment within folks. Does it matter if it was an ailment that they were born with, or something from a workman's happened on the job, something that happened in sports league or something? Are there prerequisites?
So this is so that's a good question. This is not intended. The trial is not intended to treat patients who have a genetic disorder that leads to a degenerative disc disease. This is more mechanical, which again makes it a lot easier to treat because it's essentially it's like fixing a flat tire, and that's what the cells and the product is actually doing. It's really mechanical changes that are happening in the disc. That are not genetically related.
Okay, gotcha. And appreciate you for going into specifics on that, because I had questions about that as well. So that's the BRTX 100 side of the house. I look at what BioRestorative is doing. It's really a fork in the road. You got that, and then you've got the thermal stem side, and that's the from a layman's perspective, from a guy sitting in the back of the room, that's the brown fat.
Correct.
Okay, awesome. So let's dive into that a little bit, because selfishly, I'm incredibly interested in hearing that and some of the advancements that you guys are doing on that end.
Yeah. So the DISC program it's really it's awesome and it's great. I love the fact that we're in a phase 2 that we were able to convince the FDA that we don't have to do the phase 1 and go directly into the phase 2 that we're going to start next year in first in man studies, be a clinical stage company. That's fantastic. But I think really for me, what I'm most excited about in the future clinical development of the company and the programs is really the brown fat aspect of it. And I think that's the very high impact. It has tremendous value in terms of the therapeutic potential of the cells. We have extremely well protected intellectual property portfolio that's all related. It's all homegrown, both in the U.S. and ex-U.S. I think last year we had, or this year still, in 2021, we had 6 issued patents related to the technology. The program is allogeneic, meaning it's off the shelf. We're using an encapsulation system to basically take stem cells. We differentiate them into the cells that are involved in regulating your metabolic activity in the body. And then that is being transplanted into patients who are suffering from metabolic disorders such as type 2 diabetes, that ultimately have, tremendous impact on the life expectancy of the patients. And this is why this is such a high impact technology, because it doesn't, unlike the disc that's really related to quality of life and socioeconomic changes, that allow you to go to work, the thermostem is really impacting your life expectancy. It's something that could actually, help you live longer if we could develop the therapeutic on it. And again, we've been pioneering the technology since 2011. We have great collaborations with academics at different institutions. And our cells have been sent to third-party labs for validation. We've published with it very well. So, this is really, I think, once we get the clinical trial started for BRTX 100 and basically, push it off into its kind of pipeline of development, and from the clinical side of it, we could turn our focus in pushing the thermostem program or the brown fat program to be into the clinical setting, just as the BRTX 100 program is right now.
Yeah, so the goal, James, in 2022 is to have 2 clinical programs all working at the same time. So right now it's just BRTX 100. We still have a lot of wood to chop as it relates to brown fat, but 2022 is really the breakout year.
Awesome. And in terms of participation, right, within these trials, within these analyses and things of that nature, is there a way that folks who are suffering from various ailments can actually participate in some of these trials, or has that already been an identified group?
No. So starting a clinical trial, it's not an easy process. There's a lot of moving parts. There's hundreds of people that are involved in getting this program started for us. If you're a patient or someone that's suffering from a disc disorder, what you can do is you could go to your clinic or your doctor, and they could search and look for clinical programs that are out there that are available for treatment, which is one of us will be our program. Then they could refer you to actually apply for the clinical trial, and you submit your information. If you follow the inclusion criteria and don't meet any of the exclusion criteria, then you could potentially participate as a candidate for the program.
Got you. That makes sense. Let me ask this, because we're getting into the weeds in a good way, right? Because we've got folks that are watching and listening right now who are in need of these therapies today, right? And I'm gonna bring this particular question up right here. We've got someone. You stated you could help other body parts. He's been through reconstructive ACL surgery. Could BRTX have helped with something of that as well?
Yes, potentially it could. It could. The cell, again, it's a stem cell. Just in general terms, we're using a mesenchymal stem cell isolated from bone marrow. So if you just search clinicaltrials.gov, you'll find, mesenchymal stem cells from bone marrow, and you'll find, a couple hundred clinical trials out there that are related to, other indications outside of the disc. So, this could potentially be used for other applications. Obviously, we have to stay laser focused to, accomplish the phase 2 clinical trial. But, we do have a product pipeline. This is not just, the 2 products we have. We have additional programs that have not been publicly disclosed that we're working on that are part of our product pipeline portfolio that will be launched later this year to the public.
Awesome.
If you look at our whiteboards behind closed doors, you'll see you said two forks in the road.
Yeah.
Those are two platforms. Those platforms have multiple tributaries and applications that we want to go in a variety of different directions, which will take time and obviously more capital raised in order to accommodate that. But the technology we are very proud of in the sense that it's truly platform technology with multiple applications in different areas, and that's true for both programs. So we're pretty excited about that. And speaking of the phase 2 clinical trial, at 4:01 this afternoon, we announced that we reached an agreement with our clinical research organization. So the trial, from the standpoint of formally initiating, has now begun. So we're really excited about that. And like I said, there is a lot of wood to chop in terms of getting that from signing the agreement into the first patient in to recruiting our clinical sites and all these other meaningful fundamental catalysts that are going to be talked about in the upcoming months as it pertains to the trial. And that's really where we want our friends and our family and our like I said, our ecosystem to focus is what are we going to do within the next 12 months? What are those key catalysts that are coming down the line as it relates to both programs?
That's exciting. So congratulations on that right there. That's definitely good news. You guys have been making it happen this year
Well, we
already.
wanted to use your platform, James, and your audience. We're so fortunate to have you invite us to have this venue to kind of talk about these types of things. So we really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you guys as well. And staying laser focused, staying on the mission that you have, I think also addresses and answers this question here that came from Mr. Mark Jones. We have BRTX 100 and ThermoStem. Are there more coming down the pipeline in the near future? And I think you kind of talked about that right now, right, with that proverbial fork in the road of let's get what we're doing now right. And let's make sure
Yeah,
that
so
we
so we
provide
have
value.
yeah we have other programs that have not been disclosed publicly. The only other program that we haven't made a lot of noise about that has been disclosed is related to the thermostem program, but not to treat metabolic disorders.
Mm.
It's because of the fact that since we have an allogeneic stem cell from there, the cell could actually be used to as an off-the-shelf product to treat multiple indications outside of the metabolic disorder. And that's one of the things that we're aggressively pushing. We have been pushing for about 2 years. But now that we're funded and capitalized, 2022 is going to be pretty exciting for that program, since we're really going to be targeting areas outside of the metabolic disorders, potentially pulmonary issues that are related to COVID. It's a big thing right now. One of the things that, obviously the infection rates are skyrocketing. It's all over the place. Thankfully the vaccines are out there, and, other treatment options. But even if you're vaccinated, we still don't understand the full mechanism and long-term effects of having been infected and with COVID. So there's going to be a lot of long haulers. And one of the things that we're developing is a program to target that. And I think that again, we're not the only company. There's I think 3 other players out there that are targeting ARDS or long haulers related issues due to COVID. So our cell has that ability, and that's going to be a big push for us in 2022 to get it into the clinic.
That's good information. No, I want to touch on that in a second, talking about who else is kind of in the field, kind of doing similar activities. But one thing that I thought about, and someone else asked as well, Quint, thank you for asking this question. Should trials go as planned, or even better, do you plan to have talks with sports leagues and or unions such as nurses, right? Just different types of applications, right, for the thermal stem. I think about fitness supplements and things of that nature. Again, I'm third person looking in. I'm talking from the back of the room, but just again, there's so many different opportunities and possibilities with the science, with the technology, and where you're going, that something like even this question could be something relevant for you as well. Did you want to comment?
It's a great question, and it's something that we have done in the past, and we continue to do. We continue to explore all strategic options and have conversations with a whole host of folks, including professional sports teams, in professional leagues. Sometimes the league approaches us, sometimes the sports team, or sometimes the athlete approaches us. It just depends. It seems like it's somewhat unorganized from them coming to us perspective, but we're happy to speak to everybody. And these folks are looking to either get involved in our trial, to learn more about our company, to see how they can participate in the development, so that we do get the opportunity to validate this technology so it does become applicable to their athletes. We have MMA fighters who are highly interested in the regenerative nature of what we're doing, and we've had multiple conversations there. We've even directed people into certain clinics outside the U.S. that could potentially be helpful to them, that use a derivation of our technology that has proved to be very safe and efficacious. So to answer the question, which is a great one, we explore these conversations all the time. We're very grateful that we have a robust demand for what we're doing. It's just a matter of now prosecuting our regulatory pathway and getting through it so that these products now become commercialized. Gotcha. And that we can, take it to the next level of execution.
Got you. And see, the focus, as always, for me and folks who have been to any of my sessions, has always been on the story, been on the science, been on the factual piece. We've talked about that, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But that, what we just talked about just now, different means of utilizing your technology, and in a way, that also addresses and answers the folks that are looking at that stock ticker right below Mr. Silva right now, right? Because they're seeing forward momentum, forward progress within the organization. You have a goal, you have a roadmap, you have different things that you're working on to prove the longevity of the organization, right? Showing your worth, showing your value, and what I like to call the what's in it for me. So I wanted to make sure that we touched on all of those aspects, right? Spend 80% of the time talking about the company, the principles and the initiatives that you're working on, but then allow folks who are vested in the organization from a financial perspective to say, you know what, Alstodt and Silva have this under control and they are moving forward in an effective direction. So again, don't want to ever assume anything and want to have those types of conversations. So I'm glad that we got into that just a little bit as well. Lance, I touched on, I wanted to talk about competitors, other organizations that are doing similar, if not different. Definitely don't want to throw anyone on the bus. Don't want to mention names or anything of that nature. But, where do you see BioRestorative, in the overall landscape of therapeutic technologies and things of that nature?
Sure. I mean, look, I think this is somewhat of a nascent industry in terms of gene and cell therapy. 2021 was a sort of a breakout year with more than 1,300 gene and cell therapy candidates in development. Most of those were for oncology. But as we look at 2022, we're looking at, a whole host of cell therapies going into clinical trials within the space of orthopedics and metabolics and ophthalmology. So we really feel like we are pioneers within the cell therapy space. We're one of three that are really focused on orthopedics. And I love the way we're positioned vis-a-vis the other competitors. I think we all wish the entire community a tremendous amount of success, because I think that bodes well on us and for our shareholders. But we're very differentiated in terms of our product composition. We are very customized in our approach to how we treat the disc, whereas others, I think, are more off the shelf and they have one cell line to treat heart or brain or spine, and they kind of use that one cell to treat multiple different issues within the body, whereas we are specifically designed and customized to treat that particular patient's particular issue within their spine. And I think that's what differentiates us. But from an overall high level perspective, cell therapy is something that's becoming much more obvious, much more intuitive to surgeons and patients alike. people understand that this is the future. Many large hospital organizations and traditional surgical centers that have focused on instrumentation are now creating regenerative medicine committees and groups and businesses within their organizations, because they know that this is really the future for orthopedic issues.
This hits home with a lot of folks and resonates because you can see from the varying different comments that are coming in, right? You see that this really is touching folks individually or touching their family. And, again, something like this statement here from Quint, right? Working in long-term care, have seen lots of joints and backs go bad. Less invasive overall would be tremendous. Lots of farmers or ranchers, laborers, et cetera, would also love shorter recovery. So again, hitting home and understanding the value that's coming from the technologies and therapies that you're providing. So I'm loving the comments. I'm loving them coming in, and I'm loving having you guys respond to.
And he's right. Quentin is right. I mean, if you, not to go and do a history lesson in spine, but spine went from extremely invasive with a lot of trauma to more minimally invasive with smaller instruments and now even within robotics, but using instrumentation. But the problem is that the revision rates still remain unacceptably high. And in order to get these surgical procedures approved, doctors and surgeons have to go through a whole host of diagnostics in order to get them approved for the payers. So the payers are looking for, added diagnostics in order, and from a surgeon's perspective, that just means more time, more cost, and the surgical rates are just unacceptably low. So we need a more elegant, sophisticated solution to get in there without all of the diagnostics, something minimally invasive, without the big recovery rate, without the big recovery time in order to get back out of the bed, and something that heals from within using the best part of one's body to heal itself. And we've demonstrated that these stem cells have the capability of doing that.
Mr. Silva, I'm going to ask you to chime in there because you're kind of, again, the man behind the scenes. You're the wizard behind the curtain who knows at the very the cellular level, I'll say, of what Lance and I are talking about here. But if you don't mind elaborating, just again, the value of the work, the value of the therapies, the value of what BioRestorative is doing.
Well, it's tremendous. I mean, it's literally a game-changing platform that we have for treating, disorders that have a tremendous impact on your day-to-day operations in terms of living. The DISC program, it's as Lance mentioned, it's designed and engineered particularly for the DISC. So it's not a one-size-fits-all stem cell for every single indication out there. This has been designed and engineered and manufactured in a way that the FDA can approve it. It's designed and manufactured in a way that the physician could actually apply it to his patients, which is the end user of the technology ultimately. And it's designed in a way that the patient who receives the product is going to be hopefully receptive and be a responder to the treatment. So it's a personalized approach to treat a disorder that has a huge impact on your day-to-day operations and living. So if we could get this into the clinic and ultimately get the product approved, I mean, it's going to have a tremendous impact in terms of people's lives, and that's something that, like I said, it's it's an honor, it's a big responsibility for as the leader of the science in the company to develop the programs and keep it moving. So it's exciting. This is a lot of fun for me. I mean, this is where I really love to see my work. I'm very proud of what I do. I'm good at it, and I like it. It's fun.
Awesome. Appreciate that. You know, I bring up the site here, and if there are folks who aren't aware of what the overall organization is doing by Restorative Therapies, they can definitely come here and take a look and get the behind the scenes, get the story of the organization, of the two, again, guiding principles, the two guiding initiatives that you're working on today. One thing I also wanted to point out real quickly from this site, not just these two handsome gentlemen right here, not just their pictures, but Lance, this letter that you wrote, right, to the investment community, this letter that you wrote, yeah, it's directed to the stockholders, but it's also directed to folks who believe in what you're doing. Talk a little bit about the statements that you made in here, you know, stepping back and looking back at what you did in 2021 is needs to be talked about and needs to be reiterated, but really focusing on what's coming when we turn the calendar year.
Yeah, so this is just an approach that we took when we first joined the company. At the end of the year, I put out a shareholder letter last year that said, hey guys, the world may feel like the sky is falling, but we're very determined to make this work. And we have a very thoughtful and deliberate set of strategic goals that we want to accomplish this year. Stay with us, help us, join arms, lock arms, and trust that we're going to try to get this done. And this year was a different tone. It was a little bit more like, hey, we told you what we were going to do. Here's what we did, and here's the list of our accomplishments in 2021. We're really proud of it. We exceeded our expectations in terms of what we could actually accomplish within a certain time frame. And it was tremendous. I mean, we emerged from Chapter 11. We became a current filer with the SEC. We renegotiated all of our key vendor agreements and our professional service agreements. We streamlined the operations. We added 6 new patents to our intellectual property portfolio. We filed 10 new patents alone within our novel technology related to our BRTX 100. We expanded our manufacturing facility. We expanded our board of directors to include some really high-level domain expertise gentlemen from large publicly traded companies. We've gotten equity research to initiate coverage on our company. We've raised $23 million and we've uplisted onto NASDAQ. I mean, that really is a tremendous amount of effort over the course of 12 months. So this year, we were very proud to submit a letter to our shareholders, our ecosystem, and really say, hey guys, thanks for trusting us. Here's what we did. And by the way, if you believe in our execution, well, stay with us because next year we've got even more exciting plans. And we've listed a few of them, and they were mostly pertaining to all the things that we just talked about, James, with respect to our clinical trial and accelerating our brown fat program. And, we may have a few other items that are not on this page that will be announced as appropriate. And hopefully we'll have an opportunity to come back on the show and talk a little bit about, more of that.
Definitely. And I think Nathan Farrington actually said it best, right? You guys did great. You kept your word all the way through, and you were more action than just dialogue, right? Because a lot of times, again, stepping back and being realistic, a lot of times we'll hear the high strategy, right, from an organization and from leadership, but to actually implement and act on the words and do it in such a short period of time, again, should not be overlooked and should not be understated. That needs to be reiterated and restated. So kudos to you guys on that.
Thank you. We have a tremendous amount of satisfaction related to executing and keeping our promises and accomplishing our stated strategic goals. It's just the way we as a group, we have a philosophy in our team. And it's really, what do we want? Everyone says we do this, we go to work. We actually be, okay. We live our best life within our company by receiving optimal satisfaction related to accomplishing all of these goals. We have a mission. We want to commercialize these products. And the way to do that is to put one step in front of the other and execute on the plan. And everyone is signed up, everyone's on board. We have tremendous amount of energy in the hallways of our organization day in and day out. It's just a great place to be.
Love it. I love it. And there are times when you have to, you being chief scientist, you being chairman of the board, you being CEO, you have to make those hard decisions, right? And you can't be 100% popular all the time. And I'm going to say that, and I'm going to bring this statement up, right? Again, there are folks that are concerned and are asking about that movement, right, from the OTC side. But again, you have to make those hard decisions. You have to be forward thinking. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but again, the person comes back and says, don't get me wrong, everything is greatly appreciated. But no one is sitting in those corporate rooms and around those conference tables except for you, and you've got to do what you think is best for the organization. So I put the comments up because I wanted to be very transparent in terms that it's not just pie in the sky that we're talking about here. We're going to bring out the good, the bad, and the ugly, and want you to see what is being said also within the community right now. So.
Yep. No, we appreciate that, and I'm sure there are people that have invested in the company that have, not done as well as they expected from a financial perspective. We think that's one part of the story. We don't think this is a quick flash in the pan. This is a company that we're building. We're building it right. We're building it fundamentally. We are growing our value intrinsically. While it's hard not to look at the stock price all the time or look at the value that the market wants to attribute to our enterprise, what we do is we are operating the business. And we have our stated goals, and we're executing on those goals. And we believe that in time, those goals, when realized or when that technology is validated, that value will be unlocked. So we are sympathetic to anyone that doesn't feel great about their financial commitment and what that's resulted into. We can't control that, obviously, but we work our butts off in order to make sure that what we're delivering is a gold standard product.
I love it. Two more questions. That was the hardest. Well, that wasn't the hardest question that you get. The last one that I'm going to ask you is going to be the hardest question. This one's pretty straightforward, and we may have already talked on it a little bit. What's next? All right. What come after Christmas, after Festivus, for us old school Seinfeld folks? After New Year's, what happens January 2022 at BioRestorative?
Well, look, I think today was an interesting announcement with respect to our agreement that we signed with our CRO, so we can get right into our trial. I mean, we're really initiating our trial now, and we're going to be recruiting clinical sites across the country. We'll be recruiting about 15 or so in the first quarter of 2022. We're going to be completing our engineer runs with respect to our phase 2 clinical trial during the first quarter of 2022. We have patient recruitment and first patient into the trial, and we have a safety review board at the FDA that we're going to be talking about as time goes on. We're going to be, getting our brown fat program into the clinic through submission of an IND. We're going to have a DMF, which is a drug master file, such that we can collaborate with other large strategics with regard to our brown fat program. I mean, there's just so many different programs that we're going to be focused on. We're going to be hiring some additional leadership to help on our quality and CMC side of our business, people that are very well regarded, that have worked at large pharmaceutical companies in the past, names that may be recognized. So, we just have a lot going on from a leadership perspective, from an execution and operational perspective. And we have a couple of other things that are not kind of on this letter that talks to shareholders that I think will be very uplifting and very, very strong signals that we're moving this in the right direction.
I love the smile on Francisco's face, because if I could go take him out and get him drunk right now, he might spill the beans, but I could tell there's something that's
dying.
good.
He's dying to tell the story, but I've got him on
Honestly,
this
I
slide.
think it's the worst part of being with a public company is you can't spill the beans.
Yeah, he's over there. You're just itching.
I want to, but we can't. But we're very focused, and as Lance was mentioning, we have a plan laid out for 2022. It's laser focused. We obviously, we want the stock price to move in the right direction. But we're focused on the trial, and I think, that's the main thing, is accomplishing that mission, which is something that we've been working extremely hard for a number of years, and we haven't been able to get there. Now, for the first time, we have, we can, and I think, once that trial is launched, like I mentioned, we have a product pipeline. BRT is not a 2-program company. We have been working on other products, and they are high impact. And I believe that 2022 is going to be a good year for us, where a lot of these programs are going to be, peeling the onion and seeing what's there, the next layer, moving it forward. So, there's some areas in immuno-oncology that we're interested in, that we're looking at. Like I mentioned to you, one of the key programs that we're going to target is COVID-related indications. So we're excited.
Awesome. Okay, hardest question of the day. You guys are both in New York, right?
Yep.
Jets, Giants, or Bills?
Well, I'm not going to say, because I don't want to be that unpopular, but I'll just say that I grew up in the Northeast, the small town outside of Boston. So how the sport teams up there are loyal. So
Yes.
I will say none of the 3 that you mentioned fall onto my radar, except for when we beat them.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, it's easy for me, James. I'm not a big football fan, so none of the above.
Mike, I thought I was going to get you guys with something. Look, you know what?
I thought it was a hard question.
Before we leave, James, I want to thank you very much for giving us this platform to tell our story. More people should come onto this type of platform with you, because you're really able to extract, I think, the essence from a company, its culture, its philosophy, what it's looking to do very well. And I'd also like to thank our shareholders for being with us, some for a short period of time, maybe minutes, others for a long period of time. And we appreciate everyone's loyalty and dedication, and and for believing in what we believe in and what we're so passionate about. And I hope that people see how passionate we are about what we're doing and what we're creating, because I think we're going to be saving lives and helping people live longer, healthier, stronger lives. And this is a sector that is just in the very beginning. It's actually in its infancy relative to how big and how exciting it will be down the road.
Awesome. I appreciate you, sir. I appreciate the words. I'm a servant to the community. And, when it's a great story that needs to be told, I want to turn the lights on, press record, and give you the opportunity to share that story, because you're doing the work that matters. So anytime you want to come to Hicks New Media and come on Perspectives and Focus, you have keys to the front door, both of you gentlemen.
Thanks so much. We'd love to take you up on that opportunity. And
Awesome.
If you're in New York, please come by and see the facilities.
You heard it here first, right? Lance said I'm coming in. I'm going to be wearing a BioRestorative hat or something, or some swag, and I will definitely speak the good words. Gentlemen, be well to yourself. Be good. Take care of your family. Take care of yourself. We will see you in the coming months, and thank you again for taking the time to share your story.
Great.
Thank you. Happy holidays. Thanks, James.